a couple years ago, Louis C.K. asked me to open for him. He texted me 24 hours before the gig, and it said, "Are you free tomorrow?" I texted yes, and he texted back 8 p.m. 57th and 7th. So I'm like, okay, I'll see you there. And then I'm like, what club? You know, I couldn't remember like what club or theater is on 57th and 7th. So I Google it with Louis C.K. and out pops Carnegie Hall. So I'm like, oh my God, I have in 24 hours I'm gonna be playing Carnegie Hall. So the first thing I said when I got on stage was, I said in 1987, I entered my freshman year at City College as a jazz piano major. And who would have thought, 25 years later, I'd be on stage at Carnegie Hall as a stand-up comedian. So, yeah, man, life takes you some pretty interesting places. It's funny, like when I was in elementary school, like maybe 3rd or 4th grade, I would play the piano for the school. There was this man, Mr. Hecker, who was in charge of lunchtime. So like if it was inclement weather, rather than being outside running around, we would be in the auditorium. So Mr. Hecker, like in a sense, kind of got me my first gigs. He'd be like, we need you to play today. So I would be like in front of, a few hundred kids playing like the theme from Rocky or something. Well, kids liked it, and then they knew me, and then you stand out in some way because they know who you are. So that, that feels good as a kid, that some other kid that you don't even know from another class, says hi to you or says, that was cool or, whatever, just that they acknowledge you in some way. I guess it registered a little bit at the time that it was like special, but now looking back, like maybe it was kind of in some way like forming that performance muscle, or I realized that this is something in me that I'm comfortable with and I like. This is me with my grandmother, Ruru, my maternal grandmother, who was a good pianist, and we used to play together. It became a tradition that I would play My Funny Valentine for Ruru, like over the phone, like when she lived in Florida in her later years. So I would call up and play My Funny Valentine, because she always, like, as the years went on, she was so excited that I kept playing and everything, so that was kind of cool. So when it came time for college, I decided to major in music, and you had to choose either the jazz or the classical track. So I decided to study jazz piano, and very quickly realized that I was way in over my head, and these were like world-class musicians. I switched my major to education, and I wound up teaching music. So then, I was in the world of like the plastic recorder, teaching kids how to play, hot cross buns and this type of stuff. And I started doing comedy at night. So pretty much as soon as I put my mind to it, I was doing it like 4 or 5 nights a week.
Give it up for Mr. Ted Alexandro.
I was an elementary school music teacher for 5 years when I first got out of college. I taught the recorder. Are you familiar with Satan's Little Flute? If there's music in hell, I assure you it is played on the recorder by 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. Hot cross buns, you remember that classic? Who could forget? That was like our free bird. We would end every concert with hot cross buns. Send them home happy. 5 years of my life. And you'd be like, all right, kids, let's turn the page to Three Blind Mice. Same song 50 times in a row. Different titles. Nobody ever caught on. And I only taught them 3 notes. The entire year, that was my job, 3 notes. I taught them B, A, and G. One time this little boy came running up to me all excited. He's like, Mr. Alexandro, this is a C. I was like, shut the hell up. Never mention that again. Ain't no C in the buns. I want to increase my workload by 33%.
You tend to gravitate towards the things that come relatively easily. You know, comedy obviously takes a lot of work and a lot of discipline and a lot of focus over a lot of years to get good and to have something to say and to find your voice and all of that. And the same with music and jazz piano and any music. If you want to do it well, there's a humility to it in terms of knowing, you know, respecting the elders that came before and respecting the art form. And I think, you know, in a sense, I bring that mentality to comedy that I'm really grateful to be part of this tradition. And I have tremendous respect for my elders and everyone that does it, really any comedian. You know, so I think jazz definitely informed that approach. I think I just had the realization that, you know, I could have put that work in with music, but it felt like work. It was hard, you know, it was not coming easily. It's kind of like fits and starts where I'll go through months where I don't touch the piano just because, you know, I'm immersed in other things. Then there'll be months where I play all the time, you know, and I kind of get into a rhythm where I'm playing and practicing, and, you know. Yeah, I think it's like just part of the creative brain maybe that it's always there to, they all kind of nourish one another. And maybe when you're tired of one, the other is there to kind of re-energize your creative ambition and direction.
Because most of their teachers at that age are female, so I was always Mrs. Alexandro to them. And at first you try to correct them, you're like, it's Mr. Alexandro because I'm a man. And after a few weeks you give up, you're like, it's Miss Alexandro because I'm not married.
If people ask you what you do and you say that you're a comedian and you haven't been on TV, it is an upward climb of trying to justify yourself. I would do an open mic at 5, go on the date at 7, and then do another, 2 open mics at 9 and 11 or whatever. And I would always remember telling people, I'm a comedian, and they would say, well, have you been on TV? And I'd say, no. And they'd be like, do you make any money at this? And I'd say no, and they'd be gone.